Hey guys, Sublord here, back again with another action figure review, and today I'll be taking a look at the Transformers Prime. Wait, this is a Masters of the Universe figure? Could have fooled me. But today I'll be taking a look at the Mattel Creations exclusive, Masterverse New Eternia Horde Trooper, Deluxe Horde Trooper to be exact, brought to us by the, we'll say, 50-50 fine folks over at Mattel, and I'll get into why that is in just a minute here. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, why don't we cut right to the chase and get into the details of this review and take a look-see at all the accessories good old Horde Trooper here has to offer, starting off with his Big Arse Final Fantasy sword. That's enough to make Sephiroth jealous. Cool, I guess. I never saw the Horde Troopers as sword wielders, but I'm okay with them implementing new ideas here. It is new Eternia, after all, not old Eternia. Said he does come with the Horde Trooper Spear. This little gargoyle guy in the end, and you can actually flip the wings out. And it kind of looks more like the crossbow that way, but the choice is yours. You can do whatever you please with that. I should mention that there is also a little clip on the back for you to store said spear if you don't want him holding it in his hand. Snap it in just like that. Said taking that out. Should also be worth noting you can pop this piece off if you so choose. I don't really know why this is a separate piece. I'm curious if the wings from the Turtles of Grayskull Hordak will fit back here. I kind of feel like the pegs are too small, but I feel like they made this removable for a reason. I'm just trying to figure out what that is, because it was like in its own little baggie, like paper baggie. That said, that is all you get for accessories. You don't get any extra heads or hands or any more weapons or anything like that, which does kind of suck because his hands do come out like most Masterverse figures do, and it would have been nice to get some punching hands, because maybe, just maybe, a Horde Trooper's willing to throw down the pit and punch someone right in the throat. That said, some of you might be familiar with this fella here. This is the Masters of the Universe Classics Horde Trooper, and the main reason I got this Masterverse one is to be a bit of a commando for my Classics Horde Troopers, which I have two of. Shout out to my good buddy Evil Villain for the hookup on those. But despite the fact the colors don't match, the Classics one is more of a gray, whereas this newer one is a pearlescent gray and or silver. It's definitely not silver paint. It's more like marbly-esque plastic that Hasbro often uses. I think the new Eternia Merman and Cyclone both have this plastic as well. It doesn't bother me, really. I mean, I'm visually impaired. What really does, as far as that goes. But, you know, silver paint would be nice. That said, if you have, you know, some Origins Horde Troopers, this guy would definitely look good next to those. I mean, he kind of looks like a giant mech suit compared to those, whereas this guy just looks like a bigger dude in a bigger suit of armor. But, you know, they're your toys. You're free to do with them as you wish. But taking a bit more of a closer look at our Horde Trooper here, the helmet is removable. It's a little tricky to get off, but if you grab it by the little fin back here, you can peel it off and see this green goblin vampire kind of Hordak looking head underneath. That said, if that's a little difficult for you to see, I understand that, but you can take this armor off, and that way we can see it a little better. And yeah, essentially it is a green Hordak head. And one thing to note about the head articulation on this figure, he's got a full-on disc hinge this time around. Now, I'm a double ball peg guy, no homo, because you get more variety in nuance posing with a double ball peg than you do with a disc hinge, but Mattel has been using this stupid, like, buried in the neck, borderline top of the chest, disc hinge in the neck thing for a while now, and it's nice to see them do something different. Like, this gets pretty good range, like back and forth, so I'm okay with that. That, and they don't have the head sitting a mile off the neck, so it doesn't look disproportionate, especially with this guy since he's in a big armored suit here. That said, with the head attached, you don't get a ton of like down. You do get a little bit of up though, so that's cool. It can rotate side to side. It can look up and down just on the ball peg, and you do get some nuance posing, but it's a little bit more natural with a double ball peg. That said, if you're wondering about the helmet, spear and magic helmet, literally, he's got a spear and he's got a magic helmet. It does rotate. It will detach, but you can rotate this around if you want. It doesn't rotate a ton, and it sits on there better with the chest armor. In fact, I think it's actually supposed to plug into that. Oh, that's what it plugs into. Really? I could have just popped the chest armor off and not the helmet? Okay. I look stupid. But the helmet does rotate. So you can pose the head, then the helmet if you want, which I think is cool. It's also cool that the helmet's got clear lenses. As far as the shoulders go, they hinge out, back down, they rotate all the way around. He's got a bicep swivel. It works just fine. He's got a single jointed elbow that gets you almost 90. Can bend back too. I think the arms are like symmetrical, at least the upper arms. I think the lower arms might be different, but the upper arms feel symmetrical, like they're just flipped, which I don't mind since it's an armored suit. Like, doesn't have to be different really. In fact, I think the Origins one's pretty symmetrical too. But he does have a swivel in the gauntlets, which is cool, and then he's got a swivel in the wrist with a hinge. The wrong hinge for holding weapons. It's like, if you're not going to give us extra hands, at least give us hands that work right with the weapons, and they didn't do that. Diaphragm joint crunches forward a little bit, back. It does tilt side to side. It does rotate, as well as the waist. That said, he's got those dreaded drop-down hips, which is an 8.5-inch figure. He does not need those, okay? But he does have the ball-socketed hips that we're used to seeing with Masterverse. He can kick out like, all the way. I will say, they do kind of help kicking out, but you know, if you heat up these little Iron Man disc things on the side, you don't really have a lot of hindrances there. That said, he can kick forward and back just fine. He's got a thigh cut, double jointed knee, which a little hard to use, but it does work. And then he does have a boot swivel, surprisingly, and a hinge at the foot with a rocker. He's got big old honking feet, but I will say the left leg on mine is incredibly loose. I mean, for 40 to 45 bucks after tax and shipping, that's not acceptable and is really lame. That said, when I first got this guy, this leg barely wanted to move, and I had to heat it up, pop the hip off, put a little soap in there, put it back on, and I have since rinsed all the soap out, and for whatever reason, it is incredibly loose. And the problem with the hips on the Masterverse figures is they don't respond to heat hardly at all. They're made out of this weird Crayola crayon wax crap. Not really plastic. I don't know if you can call this plastic. It feels like wax to me. And I've had nothing but problems since they've done that. As you remember, my Triclops, his thigh cut straight up cracked and broke. My Cyclone was missing a big chunk out of one of his legs. The Snout Spout didn't give me any problems. He did have a stuck drop-down hip because, again, I don't get why everyone loves these joints. All they do is get loose, especially with how heavy this guy's legs are. I mean, look at the size of him. But Snout Spout didn't give me problems with the legs. It was his arms that gave me problems. But the web store, the first web store I had, he had a stuck drop-down hip, and I popped his leg off to try and get it loose, and I popped the leg back on, and because it's made out of that wax plastic, it didn't warp back, and it kind of got stretched out and loosened a bit. So, yeah, please, 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 fine folks over at Mattel, go back to the PVC hips. I know they weren't great in the beginning. They were too tight. Some people were having problems. But, you know, a hairdryer and some soap fixed those. And because they were PVC, they'd warp back if you pop them off. These, I don't know if this is going to warp back. It's a little less loose than it was, but it's still not great. Still not great. So, yeah, I'm not a fan of the hips on this guy, unfortunately. What I'm also not a fan of is the lack of accessories. Like, we didn't get much of crap with this guy. I'm not counting that back piece as an accessory because who the heck's not going to put that on him? But when your figure can pop apart here, pop apart here, pop apart here, and even pop apart here, where's like some swappable parts? Like, I would have paid an extra $5 to get some swappable arm cannons or rocket legs or something. I don't know if they plan to make like an add-on kit to this guy. They've never done like a weapons pack before. That'd be kind of interesting. But it's like the arms pop out of the torso. The forearm pops off the upper arm, and then the hand pops out of the forearm, like, again, most Masterverse figures often do. But we get no swappable parts. It seems kind of pointless. Like, no extra heads, no alt hands, no weapon arms or anything. And if anything was going to come with those, I think it was going to be this guy. Or you'd think it was going to be this guy, I should say. So, that is a bit of a bummer, because this thing could have really been figure of the year quality if it weren't for the quality control issue I have with mine. Hopefully I can get that fixed. And if he came with more stuff, he just does not come with enough for me. Not at the price point. Like, the Snout Spout came with the backpack, the axe, extra hands. He was a brand new buck, so you can't say it's because it's a brand new buck. He came with the tubes. His belt was a separate piece. His tusks were removable. Like, there was a lot of fun factor with that figure. I don't feel the same with this guy. Like, some extra heads and some extra hands would have went a long way, along with some kind of arm attachment. But, you know, it is the bare minimum that they could get away with charging the price they charged for. And while I don't think it's the most egregious thing, Hasbro gave us both Scar and the Let There Be Carnage deluxe figures. They came with extra heads, extra hands, and weapon accessories, and they cost a little bit less than this guy. And those have a licensing fee attached to them, for those of you who want to use that argument. So, yeah, I don't know what's going on as far as some of the choices they made with this guy. I think aesthetically he looks really cool. He looks a lot like a Transformers Prime character, but he looks really cool. But my experience with the figure is just kind of souring my viewpoints and opinions on it, unfortunately. Fingers crossed I can get it fixed, but if you watch my Snout Spout review, you know that that's easier said than done. So before we wrap this thing up, hopefully it didn't go on too long, here he is alongside wrong character. The Mythic Legion's Brother Mandibulus. I mean, I guess we could have put Spawn out first, mix it up, but whatever. I mean, obviously, he's a big, chunky monkey. He's gonna be taller than both him and the infamous Beloved Spawn, who might be replaced one of these days. I've seen that cloth cape one from the Call of Duty line starting to pop up, so I don't know, maybe that could take his place. I say that even though the Throne Spawn didn't take his place, and that one doesn't have a cape to worry about. But either way, at least those figures come with stuff, whereas this guy kind of falls short in that regard. So before this review goes downhill any further and, I don't know, passes into oncoming traffic, why don't we cut it here and wrap things up with some final thoughts. Overall, and as good as this thing is aesthetically, the sheer lack of accessories and the quality control issue I have with the left hip on my particular figure at the $40 to $45 price point after tax and shipping, of course, is just unacceptable, for me at least. Maybe some of you guys out there are okay with that. More power to you. I'm not. When I pay money for something, I want my money's worth, and I don't feel like you're getting it here. So, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Until next time, I'll catch you guys later.